Welcome to our newest podcast series, a series dedicated to fostering conversations on topics related to safeguarding minors and vulnerable adults. This podcast series can be listened to or watched in video format. I am Dr. Carlijn de Mazure, the founder of the Center for Safeguarding Minors and Vulnerable Adults at St. Paul University in Ottawa, Canada. In this series, we bring together experts from various fields such as law, theology, psychology, education, and beyond. We will discuss the challenges, best practices, and new insights in the field of safeguarding. This podcast series is produced by the Center for Safeguarding Minors and Vulnerable Adults. Our center is committed to education, prevention, and advocacy in the field of safeguarding. Our mission is to help eliminate the threat and trauma through formation, offering healing assistance to victims and survivors, their families, and their communities. We are striving for justice and contributing to reconciliation. The Center provides resources, training, and dialogue on issues related to abuse prevention and protection of vulnerable persons in various social, ecclesial, and institutional contexts. Through international collaboration and interdisciplinary research, we aim to cultivate a culture of care, responsibility, and trust. In each monthly episode, we will explore pressing questions with leading voices in the field, seeking to understand how we can work together to create safer environments in our communities. Whether you are a professional in the field, a leader in your organization, or simply someone interested in learning more about safeguarding, we invite you to join us.
Hello, I'm Austin Leduc, the Assistant to the Director of the Center for Safeguarding Minors and Vulnerable Adults. I am pleased to introduce our speaker today, Dr. Rebecca Pawloski. After completing her undergraduate and licentiate studies in systematic theology at the Pontifical Lateran University in Rome, Dr. Pawloski worked at the Pontifical Commission for Safeguarding. She obtained her doctorate from the Pontifical Gregorian University, as well as a diploma of safeguarding. Dr. Rebecca Pawloski teaches theology at Loyola University Chicago's Rome Center. The title of her podcast is Disclosure and the Trusted Listener. Have a good listen.
Welcome to this podcast on Disclosure and the Trusted Listener, in which we'll examine some of the tensions faced by those who bear heavy stories and the vital role of a trusted listener. I'm Dr. Rebecca Pawloski. I have a background working in safeguarding with a research project on the witness of adult survivors of clerical child sexual abuse and the healing paths of the Holy Spirit. Today's discussion addresses something that impacts many people working with this topic. How does one know when and how to share difficult experiences? And if someone chooses to share their story, what makes one a trusted listener? At the heart of this discussion is a paradox or a tension. While for many, sharing traumatic experiences has been a path to healing, for others it has been the occasion of re-victimization or re-traumatization if a predatorial person learns about their vulnerabilities. On the benefit side, disclosure can open doors to concrete help and resources, allowing a person to connect with others and integrate difficult experiences into their life story. However, on the detrimental or risk factor side, it can also leave a person feeling exposed and vulnerable if too much is shared or shared too soon, or with the wrong person. It is important here also to note that in an emergency, one may need to take an extreme risk in order to exit imminent danger. The following considerations in this presentation are for persons who are not in an emergency. In finding the middle way, an evergreen insight from ancient philosophy is Aristotle's concept of the golden mean. Aristotle proposed that excellence in any area of life usually lies between two extremes, In his Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle explains that the coward feels too much fear and too little confidence, while the rash person feels too little fear and too much confidence. The truly courageous person, by contrast, feels both fear and confidence in the right proportion, not too much or too little of either, but what's appropriate to the situation. The golden mean isn't about finding a mathematical middle point, but about discerning the right response for each circumstance. Thus, the golden mean is found in the balance between a deficiency on the one side and an excess on the other. Let's examine how this applies to trauma disclosure. Consider trust. After difficult experiences, a person might swing between extremes: complete distrust, seeing danger everywhere, or they may live by the opposite, a blind or indiscriminate trust, sharing everything with everyone in a desperate bid for connection. The golden mean here might be called grounded trust, trust that's earned and tested over time based on evidence and experience, rather than sharing from fear or compulsion. The balance extends to other aspects of disclosure. In processing trauma, one navigates between complete avoidance of difficult topics and the other extreme, which is popularly called trauma dumping or oversharing. The golden mean is mindful processing and appropriate sharing at a pace, in a place, and with a chosen person that allows for integration and healing. Even self-perception requires this balance between denial of trauma, saying it wasn't that bad, and over-identification with trauma in all areas of life, seeing one as the victim. There lies a healthy self-awareness that acknowledges experiences without letting them become one's all-defining identity. Complete and compulsive disclosure, total transparency, is an excess. Lack of disclosure, or absolute privacy, is a deficiency of disclosure impeding healing. A middle way through these two extremes is discretion. How does one find these balance points in practice? Let's examine both sides of the disclosure relationship. For those considering sharing their story, key questions to reflect on include: do I experience grounded trust and free choice in this situation? Or are there adequate resources, the right time, the right place? And it's also important to consider the after plan. Sharing trauma has an impact, and what is the plan for after this story is shared? For those who find themselves in the role of a trusted listener, this role carries significant responsibility. When someone chooses to share their story, the trusted listener's role includes being present without trying to fix, respecting boundaries, both others and one's own, which will also mean maintaining appropriate confidentiality and trust, checking in with the person afterwards to see what impact the sharing has had, perhaps in 1 week's time, considering whether to take some notes later if necessary and document what has been the start of a process that may continue into the future. And also having for the listener a trusted personal support system in place where they have supervision and access to good counsel on how to proceed. The golden mean also helps explain why the same level of disclosure isn't right for everyone. Just as the right amount of exercise differs based on one's fitness level, the right level of disclosure depends on circumstances, support system, and resources. This becomes particularly important when considering public disclosure. While sharing publicly can be powerful and even help others, it requires substantial internal and external resources. The balance here isn't about finding a middle point between private and public. It's about finding what's appropriate given one's specific situation. This understanding of balancing privacy and transparency is reflected right now in broader cultural conversations. For example, in this area, research professor and popular author Brené Brown's message has evolved over the past decade from her early emphasis on vulnerability and transparency about personal struggles to a more nuanced stance highlighting the importance of privacy and earned trust. This shift in culture points to a crucial concept that calls for more attention: discretion. Discretion is the thoughtful ability to choose what to share, when, and with whom, and serves as perhaps the most valuable tool in navigating trauma disclosure. It's not about secrecy or shame, but rather about mindful choice and self-protection. Discretion allows for sharing stories while maintaining personal dignity and caring for emotional safety. A trusted listener need not be the only listener. It's appropriate and often necessary to help connect someone with additional support resources while maintaining a supportive presence. Part of discretion involves knowing and respecting one's own limits. And finding these balance points isn't a one-time achievement, but remains an ongoing process that takes practice. Like a tightrope walker making constant small adjustments, the approach to sharing and receiving stories of trauma requires continuous calibration and fine-tuning. For those carrying heavy stories and for those trusted with hearing others' experiences, healing happens in relationship, but all healthy relationships require balance. Finding one's golden mean in disclosure isn't about following preset rules, even the suggestions that I've shared here. It's about discerning what allows for both authenticity, yet also protection, both connection, but with boundaries. Ultimately, a trusted listener needs to be patient, allowing both voice and silence to serve healing. And that's the ultimate determiner. Does this serve healing? Thank you for listening. I'm Dr. Rebecca Pawloski, and I offer these reflections on balance for both listeners and story bearers to discern how most beneficially to share.